What does a homeless-looking vagabond want here?
They threw a 70-year-old man onto the floor of his own bank. And then they laughed. But they had no idea who this man was. The morning came in slow and golden over downtown Chicago. The kind of morning that made the city look clean even when it wasn't. Street vendors were just lifting their metal shutters. A delivery truck idled at the corner. Two pigeons fought over a pretzel near the curb. And walking through all of it was an old man named Walter. He moved carefully. Not because he was weak, because he had learned a long time ago that rushing never got you anywhere worth going. He wore a plain gray sweatshirt, a pair of faded dark jeans, and clean white sneakers that had seen better days. No watch, no briefcase, just a folded piece of paper tucked into his breast pocket. He stopped in front of a building that took up half the block. Pinnacle National Bank. 12 floors of glass and steel. A revolving door that spun like it owned you. 2 American flags flanking the entrance like sentries. The lobby visible through the glass, white marble floors, brass fixtures, rows of tellers behind thick counters. Walter looked at it for a long moment. Then he pushed through the door. The cold hit him first. The kind of air conditioning that made you feel like you'd stepped into a refrigerator. The lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and expensive cologne. Every surface shined. Every employee wore pressed navy blue uniforms with gold name tags. And every single one of them looked at Walter like he'd walked in by accident. He didn't stop walking. He moved toward the customer service desk near the center of the lobby. A young woman sat there, maybe 26, 27. Her name tag read Kayla. She had her phone propped behind the monitor, and her eyes were on the screen, not on the man standing directly in front of her. Walter waited. She didn't look up. He cleared his throat softly. "Excuse me, miss?" Kayla looked up slowly, the way someone does when they've already decided the interruption isn't worth their full attention. Her eyes moved from his face to his sweatshirt to his sneakers and back up again. The whole evaluation took about 2 seconds. "Tellers are on the left," she said, and looked back at her phone. "I'm not here for a teller," Walter said. "I need to make a withdrawal. A larger one. I wanted to come to the service desk first." That got her attention. She set the phone down. Not because she was interested, because something in what he said required more energy to dismiss. "How large?" she said. $150,000. The lobby wasn't loud. But whatever quiet conversation had been happening at the nearby desk stopped. A man in a suit glanced over. A teller looked up from her window. Kayla stared at Walter for a full 3 seconds. Then she laughed. It wasn't a small laugh. It wasn't a polite, uncomfortable laugh. It was the kind of laugh that said, "I cannot believe I have to deal with this today." She actually put her hand over her mouth for a second, like she was trying to stop it, and then gave up. "Sir." She said the word the way people say it when they don't mean it. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No," Walter said. "You want to withdraw $150,000 in cash." "That's correct." She leaned forward slightly. "And you have an account here?" "I do." She tilted her head. A slow, mocking look. "Sir, with all due respect, I've worked here for 3 years. I know what kind of clients we serve. Our minimum opening balance for a personal account is $25,000. The clients who keep that kind of money in this branch." She paused. Let her eyes sweep him again. "They don't usually come in wearing a sweatshirt." Walter said nothing. Kayla sat back. "I'm going to need you to not waste my time. If you have a legitimate account, go to a teller window, present your ID, and they'll tell you what your actual balance is. If not, I'm going to need you to leave the premises." "I have a check," Walter said. He reached into his pocket and set it on the desk. Flat, folded once. Kayla didn't pick it up. She looked at it like it might be contagious. "Take your check to the teller." "I'd like you to look at it first." She pushed it back across the desk with 2 fingers. "I don't process checks. That's not my job." "Then what is your job?" Something flickered in her eyes. Not guilt. Irritation. She stood up from her chair. "Let me get the branch manager." His name was Derek Sims. He came out of the back office with the energy of a man who had already decided how this conversation was going to go before he heard a single word of it. Mid-40s, hair slicked back, a tie that was probably expensive but looked too tight. He walked with his shoulders back and his chin up, which was the posture of a man who confused authority with arrogance. He stopped in front of Walter and looked him over once. "I heard there's a problem," Derek said. "No problem," Walter said. "I'd like to make a withdrawal. Kayla said you claimed to have an account here." Claimed. Walter caught the word. Didn't react. "I do have an account here," he said. Derek crossed his arms. "Sir, I'm going to be straight with you. We get walk-ins from time to time who come in with stories. Checks that don't clear. Account numbers that don't exist. I've seen it all. Now I'm not accusing you of anything. But I'm also not going to let my staff process a $150,000 transaction without verification." And looking at, he stopped. Seemed to realize he was about to say something out loud that should have stayed a thought. Walter finished it for him. "Looking at me." Derek's jaw tightened. "I was going to say, looking at the situation." "You were going to say looking at me?" Walter said. Calm. Certain. Like a man who has watched this scene before and knows exactly where it ends. Derek's patience broke. "You know what? I don't need this today." He turned to the security guard posted near the entrance. A young man, early 20s, built wide. "Courtney, come here." The guard moved toward them. Walter looked at Derek. "I'd like to speak with someone above you." "There is no one above me in this branch." "Then I'd like to use your phone." "You'll use nothing in this building." Derek stepped closer. "Too close. I want you to walk out that door. Right now. Or I'm calling the police." "You're making a mistake," Walter said quietly. "Last chance, old man." Walter didn't move. Derek nodded at the guard. The guard stepped forward, took Walter by the arm. Not brutally, but firmly, publicly, and walked him toward the revolving door. The entire lobby watched. Tellers, customers, the man in the suit who'd glanced over earlier. Nobody said a word. The door spun, and Walter was standing on the sidewalk. He stood there for a moment. The morning was still golden. The pigeons were still fighting over the pretzel. The delivery truck had moved on. Walter reached into his pocket and took out his cell phone. Old model. He dialed a number he knew by heart. It rang twice. "Hey, Dad." The voice on the other end was focused. Somewhere behind it, the sound of an office, keyboards, a low murmur of conversation. "I was about to call you. How'd the morning go?" Walter sat down on a bench at the edge of the sidewalk. An older man resting his feet. That's all anyone would see. "I need you to come," he said. A pause. "What happened?" Walter told him. All of it. The lobby. Kayla's laugh. Derek's hands on his chest. Not quite a shove, but close enough. The guard's grip on his arm. The door. The sidewalk. By the time he finished, the other end of the line was very, very quiet. "Dad." His son's voice had changed completely. Whatever had been behind it before, the focus, the forward momentum of a busy morning, was gone. What replaced it was something much colder. Much slower. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "Are you sitting down?" "Yes." "Stay there. Don't go back in. Don't talk to anyone." "I'm coming." "You don't need to cancel." "I'm coming, Dad." The line went dead. His name was Jordan. Not Jordan who worked in an office somewhere. Not Jordan who was successful in a vague, general way that people describe when they don't know the details. Jordan owned Pinnacle National Bank. Not this branch. Not this city. The whole thing. 17 branches across 4 states. The corporate headquarters in New York. The regional oversight offices in Atlanta and Denver. Every name tag. Every marble floor. Every brass fixture. His father, Walter, had built it from a single branch 38 years ago. A community bank in a neighborhood nobody else wanted to invest in. He had given Jordan the majority share 6 years ago when his knees started bothering him and he decided he'd rather take morning walks than morning meetings. Walter still had his original account. The one he'd opened himself before the bank had marble floors or brass anything. Back when it was just 4 employees and a belief that regular people deserved somewhere safe to put their money. He'd never changed his address, never changed his style, never felt the need to prove anything to anyone. Until today. Jordan arrived at the bank 2 hours later. He had taken a commercial flight, not a charter, not a car service. He wore dark jeans, a plain black hoodie, and running shoes. He'd left his office in New York in 15 minutes flat and gotten to O'Hare in 3 hours. He found his father on the bench where he'd been sitting. Walter stood when he saw him. Jordan hugged him without speaking, held on for a second longer than you might expect. Then he stepped back and looked at his father's face. There was no visible injury, but there was something in the old man's eyes that Jordan recognized. Not sadness exactly. The specific exhaustion of being made to feel like nothing by people who had no right to make you feel like anything. "Ready," Jordan said. Walter nodded. "You sure you want to do this?" "I've never been more sure of anything. They're going to be embarrassed. That's the plan." Walter almost smiled. "Same clothes." "Same clothes," Jordan confirmed. They walked toward the revolving door together. Father and son. Gray sweatshirt and black hoodie. Worn sneakers and running shoes. Kayla saw them the moment they came through the door. Her face went through 3 different expressions in about 1 second. Surprise, irritation, then a kind of settled arrogance that said, "Oh, we're doing this again." Jordan walked straight to her desk. He didn't rush. He moved the way people move when they've already decided how things are going to go. "Hi," he said. "We need to make a withdrawal." "Sir, your father was already asked to leave this branch." "I know," Jordan said. "We're back." Kayla looked at him the way Kayla had looked at Walter. Head to toe. Hoodie, jeans, shoes, back up. "I'm going to need to call security," she said. "Before you do that," Jordan said, "I'd like you to pull up account number 0001-00038. I don't process account. I know you don't process accounts. I'm asking you to pull it up. Just look at it. You can do that, can't you?" Something in his voice made her pause. Not the words, the tone, the specific confidence of someone who already knows what she's going to find. She typed in the number slowly, the way people do when they're performing reluctance. Then she stopped typing. Her face changed. She looked at the screen, then at Jordan, then back at the screen. "I'd like to get Mr. Sims," she said. "Please," Jordan said. Derek came out of his office with the same energy as before. Shoulders back, chin up, tie too tight. He stopped when he saw Jordan. Recognized him from this morning, the old man's companion. His face hardened. "We already told your father. Pull up account 0001-00038, Jordan said. "Excuse me? The account number. Pull it up." Derek looked at Kayla. Something in her face made him pause. He walked slowly around the desk, looked at the screen. He stood there. Jordan let him stand there. 20 seconds passed. Derek turned around. His whole posture had shifted. The shoulders weren't as far back. The chin wasn't as high. "Sir," he said, and this time he meant it. "The withdrawal, please," Jordan said. 850,000. Cash. For my father. Of course. Derek's voice was careful now. Controlled. "If I could just have a moment to." "No," Jordan said. "You've had enough moments." He took out his phone. Made a call. One of his regional directors. His general counsel. His head of HR. One by one. He put each call on speaker, just long enough for the voices in the lobby to hear them respond with yes. "Sir," and of course, "Sir," and "We're ready when you are." Then he ended the calls and looked at Derek. "My name is Jordan," he said. "My father's name is Walter. Walter built this bank. I own it. And yesterday you put your hands on my father and had him removed from his own building." The lobby had gone still. A teller at the far window had her hand over her mouth. The man in the suit was staring openly now. Derek's face had gone the color of old paper. "Sir, You called him an old man. You questioned whether he had an account. You had your security guard grab him by the arm in front of a lobby full of people. Jordan's voice didn't rise. It got quieter. That was worse. I have the lobby footage. I have the timestamp. I have the names of every employee who watched it happen and said nothing. Derek started to speak. Jordan held up one hand, stopped him completely. Don't apologize to me, Jordan said. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry I found out. That's a completely different thing. Kayla was called into Derek's office. She came in crying before anyone said a word. Her hands were shaking. She sat in the chair across from the desk and looked at the floor. Jordan looked at her. You laughed at him, he said. She didn't deny it. He's 70 years old. He came in here with a legitimate check for his own account, an account older than your career, and you laughed at him in front of a full lobby and told him to leave. Kayla pressed her lips together. A tear ran down her cheek. I'm not firing you because you embarrassed my father, Jordan said. I'm firing you because you looked at someone and decided in 2 seconds what their value was. That's not a customer service failure. That's a character failure. And I can train customer service. I can't train character. He stood up. Your termination is effective immediately. HR will contact you about your final check. Please return your badge before you leave the building. He turned to Derek. Same for you. And the guard. Derek opened his mouth. Jordan looked at him with eyes that had no room in them for argument. Derek closed his mouth. Jordan walked back out into the lobby. He stood in the center of it. The marble floor, the brass fixtures, the rows of tellers who had all stopped pretending to work. I want everyone to hear this, he said. His voice was even, clear, carried to every corner of the floor. 3 people no longer work here, effective right now. That is a consequence. But consequences aren't the point. Nobody moved. The point is this. Every single person who walks through that door deserves to be treated like a human being. Not based on what they're wearing. Not based on what you assume about them before they speak. Not based on your guess about how much money they have. Every person. Every time. No exceptions. He paused. If that's not something you can do, this is your moment to make a different choice. He let it sit. No one moved. He went back to his father. Walter was standing near the wall, a little apart from everything, watching. He had watched the whole thing the way he watched most things. Carefully, quietly, without giving away too much. Jordan stood next to him. They didn't say anything for a moment. Then Walter said, You didn't have to fly out here for this. Yes, I did. I would have figured something out. I know you would have. Another pause. You're too much like your mother, Walter said. She never let anything go either. Good, Jordan said. Walter looked out at the lobby. The tellers were back at their windows. The man in the suit had left. The marble floors were still shining. Everything looked the same. But it wasn't. Walter reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded check. He held it up. You still want to get this processed? Jordan said. That's why I came, Walter said. They walked to the teller window together. The young woman behind the glass, she couldn't have been more than 22, looked at them both. Her hands were steady. Her voice was steady. She smiled the way people smile when they mean it, not when they're performing it. Good morning, she said. How can I help you today? Walter slid the check through the window. She processed it without a word about his sweatshirt. They walked out through the revolving door. The morning was still there, waiting. Warmer now. The light had moved. The street was fuller. Chicago doing what Chicago does, grinding forward, not looking back. Walter stood on the sidewalk and took a breath. He wasn't crying. Not exactly. But his eyes were bright. The way eyes get when something that's been sitting heavy in the chest finally finds somewhere to go. Jordan stood beside him. You okay? He said. Yeah, Walter said. He looked back at the building once. Just once. You know what your grandfather used to say? Which part? He used to say, son, money tells you what a man has. Behavior tells you what a man is. Walter looked at his son. I always thought he was talking about other people when he said that. Jordan waited. He was talking about us, Walter said. About who we choose to be when nobody's checking. He put his hand on his son's shoulder. They walked down the block. An old man in a gray sweatshirt and a younger man in a black hoodie, moving through the crowd like anyone else. Nobody looked twice. That was exactly the point. The account number 0001-00038 was the first account ever opened at Pinnacle National Bank. Walter had opened it himself 38 years ago, with $400 and a belief that regular people deserved somewhere safe. He never changed it. He never needed to.